Walk with me. So, real question for y'all. Have you ever felt super frustrated trying to communicate something to somebody else, and you just feel no matter what you do, you're not being heard or understood? Or maybe you've been on the other side of the fence where someone's communicating to you and you're like, no, I understand what you're saying. I just have a different perspective, or I don't agree. Or maybe you've been the person watching this dynamic go down. Two people that just can't get on the same page, no matter what they try or what they do. Come on, I know you've been there before. Probably recently and frequently. I know for sure I am. I feel like at least every week I find myself in or around any of those scenarios. Sometimes I'm the one in it on one side or the other. Sometimes I'm the one watching it and helping coach people through it. But it's crazy how often we just as people can't get on the same page, can't align in our perspectives because of our communication. I laugh because I can instantly think of, have you ever been in a social situation, or you're with some friends, maybe you're at work and you lean over, someone's in the middle of a text conversation and you see their phone and you glance at the bubble, and the text bubble takes up more than the entire phone screen. Like, you know what I'm talking about? Like a single text, you have to scroll to see the whole text. Like no line breaks, no indents, like one giant big block of text you have to scroll to read. How many guys have been in that situation? Or maybe you've opened up the inbox one morning to an email that's just like a full screen of words. And no matter what the situation is, I can guarantee that neither of those are positive, right? I can't think of a single positive communication thread that takes up more than a phone screen or a computer screen. I can't think of one. Maybe you've run into one, but I can't. And I smile because I know you know what I'm talking about, because I know it happens probably more often than we'd care to admit. And it's interesting, as a person in business, many of you I know are entrepreneurs, leaders in your own rights. We work with people. That's what we do. And at the core of working with others is communication. So I want to give y'all a simple tool, and it is a tool. It's a framework. I call a reality bridge, meaning a simple communication tool you can use to bridge two realities. Take different perceptions or perspectives and find common ground, bring them closer together, de-escalate certain situations so we can kind of move in a positive direction together. And it's a tool that I've used for years personally in my own communication when I find myself in those scenarios. We all do. And it's also something I've taught and coached, I don't even know how many leaders and entrepreneurs, when they go through these situations and are open to become better, are open to grow from it. So I want to give that today as a gift, a reality bridge. Who's with us today? Quick question. Who's watching this right now? Say hello below. Tell us where you are from. I want to say hello back. I envision this, a giant global crew together all over the world. And if you are tuning in, please collaborate in the conversation. Chime in with your own experience and perspective. And if at any point in the conversation you get value, give the gift, share to someone that needs to hear this today, someone that could benefit. That's the greatest gift you can give, is not only to learn, but to share, to pass on information that's benefiting us. So before we get into the reality bridge, it's a 5-step framework. A couple just basic principles to understand. Emotional intelligence, a big topic we've touched on in some of our past conversations. You can catch them on the podcast. We've dove into entire conversations just on emotional intelligence. But when it comes to communication, you have to understand that someone with emotional intelligence, high emotional intelligence, responds and doesn't react. And at the core, the difference between a reaction and a response is removing the emotional charge. So kind of basics, first and foremost, is we got to learn to respond, not react, which means sometimes you have to pause for a minute, create some space, settle down. Sometimes if we're on the other side of a screen, you can take as long as you need. If you're in person, sometimes it might just be a pause, a breath, a minute to collect your thoughts. But in any situation, you're never going to get the best communication if you're reacting out of an emotional charge versus responding. And that's just a core principle. Another thing to understand is do not communicate emotion in text. Like ever. Nothing good comes from it. Guys, studies have proven that communication is 7% words, which means the other 93% is our tonality and our physiology or body language. So 93%, the grand majority of all communication, is not our words. And I point that out because when you're dealing in a text format, an SMS, a messenger, an email, you're only using 7% of communication. No wonder there's so many things that get misunderstood. It's not communication. It's not. Communication to me is two-way. Text is one-dimensional. You don't have the context of how the other person's thinking or feeling or responding or reacting that you get naturally. You don't even realize you're picking it up through tonality and physiology. 93%. If you understand that, you'll stop with the phone-long, screen-long text messages and learn that it doesn't get you a positive outcome you're probably seeking in that certain situation. I mean, just basics. Don't communicate anything where you have an emotional charge through text. Make sure you're using the other 93%, or as much as you can. That's why sometimes even voice notes is better than text, or technology today allows us to be on video with anyone anywhere in the world through FaceTime or Zoom. So now you got more communication. Nothing's better than in person, but all of that's better than text. And the last just kind of core principle before I give you the framework is you can't argue feeling. Man, this one took me a long time to get, and I still fall into the hole frequently. Sit on my rock here, little wisdom rock, top of the mountain. I'd show you the view, but it's pretty cloudy today. We're sitting on the clouds. I guess we're sitting above the clouds. And what I mean by you can't argue feeling is so often communication starts around a situation, right? Something specific. But it evolves into a feeling so fast. And the disconnect between people is so often on the feeling and not the matter at hand. And you can't argue with the way someone feels. The way someone feels is a fact, irregardless of the situation or their stance on it. I'll say that again. It doesn't matter the situation. It doesn't matter their stance. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, true or false, good or bad. It doesn't matter. Once a conversation moves from the situation to a feeling, their feeling is a fact. They cannot be argued. You can't argue how they feel. You can't deny how they feel. You can't prove how they feel is wrong. You can't. It's a feeling. It's their feeling. They're the only ones that know, and it's a fact to them in that situation. I still fight with this one, and gentlemen, men out there, this comes harder to us than it does to women. Women are a lot more naturally empathetic. They can shift into feeling conversation a lot more naturally. I can't tell you how many conversations, my wife and I, we don't fight a lot. We don't get into arguments, and definitely don't get into like heated or emotional arguments very frequently. But, coming up on 22 years, you could imagine there's obviously been some. And I can't tell you how many of those, the disconnect is a certain situation. My wife gets a feeling over it, and I try to solve the situation. I don't understand. Here's the solution, right? Here's the fix, right? Here's the strategy. My brain, right, as most men do, they go right to the solution or the fix. And I miss the fact that the conversation evolved in a split second out of the actual situation and onto a feeling. I'm trying to fix the situation. Well, that was 2 minutes ago. Right now we're on to feeling. And the more I try to solve the situation, the more my wife gets frustrated that I'm not hearing or understanding the feeling, right? Then it's a confusing thing we have to learn, right? Women understand. But that's true for everybody, right? It's not just a woman to a man thing or feminine to masculine thing. For all of us, right? We have feelings, and in certain situations, we can't help but wrap our own emotions into them as the next layer. And you got to understand there's a difference between the facts in a situation and the feelings someone having. And when we're communicating, we got to understand the difference. So I start with all of that because that's just some core principles to understand. And that explains kind of the why behind a reality bridge works and the tool that it is in terms of bringing perspectives together. Okay, so here's the 5 steps, 5-step framework. If you guys want to write this one down, this will be a tool I guarantee you use over and over and over again in both your personal and professional lives, right? So let's just go through what those are, and then I'll give you some examples of what I mean in terms of applying this to different situations. First thing you need to understand in a reality bridge is address their feeling. Address their feeling, not the situation. Address their feeling. Second thing, give them benefit of doubt, right? Benefit of the doubt. Let them off the hook, right? Believe in them. Assume positive intent. Those are all different ways to say, like, give them benefit of the doubt, right? Assume their positive intent. Okay. Then number 3, you can communicate your feeling. Again, we're not talking a situation. We're escalating to a feeling conversation. So we're addressing their feeling or understanding their feeling. We're giving them benefit of the doubt, assuming their positive intent. We can then explain how we feel. All right, number 3. Number 4, then after we've explained how we feel, we can find common ground in an outcome we want, a direction we want, right? A result we want. What's the common ground of where we want to go, right? So find common ground in an outcome. And then the last step is then align on how we can take a step toward that together. So those are the kind of the framework. And in simple format, address their feeling, give them benefit of the doubt, communicate your feeling, find common ground, take a aligned step forward. So you guys might be saying, well, what do you mean by that? We'll give you the conversation, right? So the words might be something like, in any situation, right? Okay, I hear you. I understand that you feel. And then explain how they are feeling. Listen to what they're saying. Explain how they're feeling, not the situation. I hear you. I understand right now you're feeling blank. Okay? Big pause, big breath. They now are going to let their shoulders down a little bit, de-escalate a little bit, because at least they feel like they're heard, not on the right or wrong or good or bad or true or false or the situation and where this started, but on how they feel right now. Okay, I understand you're feeling blank. It also creates an open door where if they're not feeling that and you misinterpreted, they can correct and explain how they're feeling. So we understand how they're feeling. When I say let them off the hook or give them benefit of the doubt, say, look, I know it's not your intention to make me feel, but right now I'm feeling blank. Right? So I just said, hey, I know it's not your intention. I know you're not trying to do this, but I want you to understand you're making me feel blank. So I transitioned to point 3, right? Here's how I feel. So now we've both laid out that this isn't a situation on facts anymore. It's a situation on feelings. They feel this. They didn't mean to, but they're making you feel this. And that's what's creating the emotional charge. So now we got to go to some common ground. Number 4, but look, we're both trying to accomplish blank. Find common ground. What are we both trying to do? We both want to see this happen. We both want to, right, do this. We're both here to accomplish this. Where does some mutual common ground, something you can align on and a step you want to make forward together? And you guys, there's always common ground. Doesn't matter how far apart two people are, there's always common ground, right? You can be in the middle of a hostage negotiation or a terrorist threat, and you watch these conversations, these professionals, what are they doing? Bridging realities, right? You can have two people totally far apart and find common ground, right? That's where you got to have a stepping stone and define it. We both want to do this, right? Great. Now we're resetting back to this situation. We've gone through the feelings, we've addressed them, we've recognized them, we put them aside, and now we're getting back to where do we want to go together. And then lastly, okay, it can be a question. What's one thing we can do together to move in that direction? And now you start small. You start with one step. It's not how do we solve, right, the world problem today. A lot of times there's not a silver bullet, at least not initially. But one step in that direction is progress. And one step allows for a second step, allows for a third step, allows for a fourth step. Right? It was, Martin Luther King. So many profound statements. Said something like, you don't need to see the whole staircase. You just need to see the next step. Right? We're not trying to solve the whole staircase here. Let's just focus on a next step we can take together, moving forward and not apart. Right? Unified, not divided. Collaborating, not conflict. So that's the 5-step framework. So you guys get the gist. That's called a reality bridge. Simple. I understand you feel. I know it's not your intent, but you're making me feel. Feelings are now on the table, right? But both of us want to accomplish blank. What's one thing we can do right now to move in that direction? Try it. Try it in your personal situation. Some of you guys, hey, your relationships will go to a whole new level if you just apply that inside the house, right? Try it in your social circle, right? When things get heated, stay off the mile-long text messages and emails and actually communicate. Use all of communication. Use these steps to find common ground and come together. And then obviously in a professional environment, you guys are going to use this all the time. The aspect of leadership by definition is you are leading people to lead themselves. And leadership will always involve other people, and other people will always involve communicating. And therefore, communicating, you'll always run into these sort of issues where you have to bring perspectives together. And I guess I'll address the fact that, guys, hey, different perspectives we need. If all of us had the same opinion and same perception and same perspective, we wouldn't need one another. Different points of view are needed. We just got to learn how to make the shift, right, from conflict that blows up situations to collaboration that moves us productively forward. And sometimes we just got to learn to get the feelings, the emotions addressed, right? So that way we can get back to the core issues and be better together. So let me know if that helps you guys. Let me know if you have any feedback or anything to chime in that's been effective tools for you, but that's a gift for you, the reality bridge, 5 steps and some core principles to just remind ourselves for communication, no matter who we are, what side we're on, and it's something we can apply to our personal lives and our professional lives very, very, very frequently. View from the top. Oh, the sun's starting to come out, peeking through. There it is. Hope you all have an amazing day. Stay safe, stay healthy, and here's to moving forward together and communicating in ways that make us all better. Take care, everybody.